ripping out your sleeves onto my lifeline. Oh, good. Oh, you didn't mean to leave a trail for me, but you didn't know I'm Trevor. It's alright with me. If it's alright with you, then I could be whatever it is that you need me to. My love, 'cause you're golden. It's alright with you, then I could be whatever it is that you need me to. My love, 'cause you're golden.
Get ready to get inspired. This is the Go for the Goldie podcast.
Hello and welcome to the weekend, everybody. Thanks for spending time with us here. It's Saturday, August 8th, 2020, and I am joined today by Troy R. Alston, elite stair climber extraordinaire. Troy, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing well. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate the invite to be on the show.
Absolutely. I've been following your journey for a long time. I think since I started to get into endurance sports about 4 years ago. So it's been really cool, like seeing your sport. And I think a lot of people don't even know, what that this was something that you could actually do at a very high level. So, right off the bat, I mean, elite stair climber. Kind of go into detail about what that is, what that entails.
Yeah, well, to be completely honest with you, I didn't know it was a thing myself until 2010.
Hey, Troy, real quick. Could you maybe unplug your headphones and plug them back in again? It's like it's kind of choppy, your audio there. See if that works. It might be the connection.
Is that better?
That is much better. There we go. All right. So let's start over again. So stair climbing. Boom. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I actually found this sport by accident. I didn't know it was a thing myself. I was looking for a 5K, and I was looking in the state of Florida for something to do. And I found this event that was in Orlando for the American Lung Association.
You know what? I'm still getting that feedback a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on.
What's that?
Let's all right, let's try that because that did sound a little bit more clear. All right, go ahead. Sorry, maybe third time's a charm here.
Yep. Is that better?
It is. It sounded a little crackly at the end there again too. What if you took the headphones out? Does your laptop have a microphone at it?
Yeah, it's currently out now.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, try that. Try the story again. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So as I was saying, I found the sport of tower running or competitive stair climbing by accident. I was actually looking for another 5K to do, and I did a very broad search on covering the state of Florida, and I found something in Orlando for the American Lung Association for the 5K climb. It's a 25-floor climb, 512 steps. So I thought to myself, well, this can't be too bad. We used to do stadiums and track and field when I was in high school. We used to warm up with stadiums. So I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe I actually might be able to do this climb with ease. So I started training for the event at my mom's job at the time. She worked at a hospital, and I was training in a parking garage, which was 6 floors. And I was clearing those 6 floors in under 20 seconds, like between 17 and 18 seconds.
You know what? The
So I
audio's
was thinking,
still kind of choppy here, Troy. What are you on a phone?
I am, yes.
What if you pick it up? I don't know. I know nothing about technology, so you're gonna hear a dummy try to problem solve on the fly here. Here, let's
What do you mean just like talking on?
yeah, because if for some reason I don't think it's the connection. It sounds like if you go over like a certain decibel, it kind of makes weird noises. It sounds like kind of glitchy.
Is this
I hate
better?
using that word. That sounded clear right there that you said. Let's try that. Let's try that.
Okay. So should I start over from the beginning?
Nope, it's still glitching out a little bit there. I wish I knew more about technology because I don't know how to fix that. Let's see. Why don't we do this? You have the code and the ID, right? That I sent you?
I'll do it.
Yeah, why don't you hang up and then call back in? And that won't, the broadcast will still go
Okay.
on and let's just kind of reconnect. See the old turn it off, turn it back on thing.
All right.
All right,
See if that
cool.
works.
Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. All right, see you in a second.
All right.
All right, everybody. So you're seeing live some troubleshooting here. Last week we lost Rick when we had him on the phone, and then this week, we got Troy on the line. But I'll tell you, while he's trying to reconnect here, how I met him was through my, getting into endurance sports at the beginning of my career. You try to surround yourself, at least I do. I thought it'd be a cool idea to kind of surround myself with people who are into endurance sports. And there are so many different kinds of endurance sports out there. I mean, you got aquathlon, triathlon, duathlon, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, full marathons, ultra marathons, swim runs. Like, you got all kinds of crazy stuff. So, and there's a lot of crossover in the hashtags. So what I did was just, try to follow a lot of the same hashtags, so you get your feed with the same kind of people coming in and out into your timeline. And Troy was one of these people that I came across, and he was just super compelling. It's really interesting. Let's hope the audio works here. Troy, I see you're back. Can you hear me?
Yes, you hear me?
I can hear you, and let's try it again. All right, so stair climbing. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's start back.
Oh, let's go.
Training.
I'm very excited. The audio's perfect. Let's go. All right. See? I'm gonna be I'm gonna say I'm a technical I can't even think of the word, like an IT guy now. I fixed it.
IT
Boom.
technician.
All right, go ahead. So I'm happy that it works out. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll be really brief, but I'll definitely start from the top. As I was saying, I found the sport of stair climbing by accident. I was actually looking for an alternative method to train for the 400-meter hurdles. When I was in high school and college, I ran cross country to build up a base. So running 5Ks and 8Ks is a big part of my training. It builds that foundation for me to build on. So I was looking for another 5K to do in Florida, and I did a really broad search, and I found an event in Orlando, which was the Fight for Air Climb, hosted by the American Lung Association. And this event was 25 floors and 512 steps. So I began to train my mom's job in a small parking garage. And as I was saying, I was clearing those 6 floors between 20 and 18, between 17 and 18 seconds, excuse me.
Wow.
So I started to do the math, and I was like, I can actually finish this building in under 2 minutes, or about 2 minutes, if I'm actually efficient enough.
Right.
Well, what I didn't take into account is when I got to the top of the 6 floors, I had to walk back down for recovery. But in an actual race in a building, there's no break. It's continuous, just 25, 25, 25. So I get to this race, and I start out really well. And I get to about the 4th floor. The Bank of America building is really weird.
Okay.
So when you get to the 4th floor, you actually leave the steps, and you have to take a hallway to the other flight of stairs.
Okay.
So that completely threw off my game. I was like, oh, this is different.
And this is your first actual competitive race that you're doing, right? In the situation? Yeah. Okay.
So I get to the next flight of stairs, and it goes back to a normal building. Well, I get to about the 12th floor, And this particular building has a set of stairs that we call Stairway to Heaven. All of
Okay.
the tower runs call it that because it's just this long flight of stairs in the middle of the building. And that completely throws me off. Well, by the time I get to the 18th floor, I'm exhausted. I have nothing. And I'm asking myself, how am I going to finish this race? So eventually I pushed myself to finish the race, and I just collapsed when I get to the finish line. The crazy thing about it is after a couple minutes, I actually want to do the race again. I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. I got to do this again.
You got bit by the bug right away, right off the bat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started to find more races, but I think the reason that I wanted to do more competitive stair races is that feeling that I felt at the 18th floor is almost indescribable. I've ran track and field in high school and college, and no event compares to that amount of pain in a stair race.
Now, when did you where did you go to college? Where did you run?
I went to Warner University, so a Christian university in Lake Wales, Florida.
Okay, got it. And how far after college did you make this, transition? When was this run compared to when college ended, or were you still in college?
At the time, this was 2010. I was in grad school, actually,
Okay.
working on my master's degree. And I wanted to make the Olympic trials. That was really my ultimate goal, to make the Olympic trials, run professional track and field. Back in 2012, there was still an A and B standard for the 400-meter hurdles. And I was 2.97 seconds away.
Oh
But
my
if you want
gosh.
to round it up, 3 seconds away, yeah. I like to live by the quote, if you want something you never had, you do something you never did to get it.
I love that
And
quote. I love that quote.
yeah, same here.
Yep.
And competitive stair climbing was that for me.
That's awesome. And that's really, I know people are sick of hearing this story, over and over again, but that's where I came up with the idea for this show, because I played football my whole life. I played a bunch of sports, but football was really like my go-to, and that sport especially. I mean, you can't do that forever, and I played professional indoor football for a couple years, and I turned 28, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. My body's just breaking down on me. But that competitive spark that's in all of us athletes. I had that moment that you're talking about on the 18th floor. I had that in triathlon, and my goal is to kind of share these moments, because you're the 8th person I've talked to, and I've talked to swimmers, can jam players, inline speed skaters, but every one of them kind of has that aha moment like you had on the 18th floor. And I think there are so many athletes that have played at a high level in high school or college, or maybe not even have played at a high level, but want to compete. It's in them. And that's where I hope to provide these different kinds of outlets to get that competitiveness out of you. So stair climbing, I think, is just such a unique, cool sport that I follow you and social media, and I see the different events that you go to. You go all over the country now, right? So let's connect the dots here. Let's go from your first race where halfway through it, you're about to die. And then, you somehow figure out to push through and make it up there, right? And then, how do you get to the point where, you're one of the premier guys in the country right now? How do you connect those dots? How did that happen?
So I finished my first race to finish that story. I ended up finishing second overall. The time was 3:05. And at the time, there was a guy named Chad. I believe his name is Kirkley. I apologize if I butchered your last name. But
he knows what you're talking
at the time, Chad was the man at the time. He had all the course records in the state of Florida, and I knew when I finished that race, I wanted to do another race. That's all I knew at the moment. So
you're coming for him. You knew that right off the bat. You're coming for him.
Right off the bat. I found another race in Fort Lauderdale, and it was a 30-floor building this time. It was about 513 steps, about the same step count, but more stairs. And that's something to keep in mind as you do competitive stair racing. You can have 2 30-floor buildings, but the stair count is different, and so is the entire building layout. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that. So when
So I ended
you,
up finishing this.
oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, so this race actually was the beginning of my actual stair climb career. I finished first overall and set my first course record in
Wow.
2:51.
And that's
Yeah.
in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yes, the 110 tower.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you that. So, you know, running is just not running. There's different, as you know, especially as a track athlete. I mean, you have anything from, the 100 to the 200, the 400, you got a 5K. And then, once you get past college, you start talking about racing. You got 10Ks, half marathon, full marathon. Is there that kind of spread in stair climbing events as well? Or is it just kind of like you're a stair climber and it's just kind of like, the distances or the heights are always similar. You know what I mean? Or are there races up, 10-story buildings and then, buildings like the Empire State Building or something like that where you would specifically train for one or the other? Does that question make sense?
It does. So you're pretty much asking if there are sprint races, middle distance, and distance races.
Exactly. See, you summed it up better than I did. I'm rambling like a moron. So yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say.
Yeah, there are. So it really depends on the floor count. 10 floors is about the smallest building. I did a race a couple years ago in Crystal City, Virginia. It was
Okay.
about 10 floors. But yeah, there are certain categories where the buildings are separate from sprint, mid distance, and distance building. Your training is going to be contingent on the length of the building, the length of the race. If you're doing the Empire State Building, you want to do something a little bit longer. You want to make sure that you can last. You don't want to spread out in a race like that.
And I use the Empire State Building
So yeah,
just kind of like as a joke, but you really did that? That's a real thing?
Yeah, I've raced in the Empire State Building twice, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check my stats. I've done so many races.
Wow.
But the last performance is actually the best. I finished in 13 minutes and some change, like low 13. The tricky part about the Empire State Building is it's by invite, but they start you in a mass start. So you have 20 guys sprinting towards the doorway at the same time.
What?
Yeah. And this is where being an athlete or competing in the past is really essential because you have to learn how to stay in your lane, as they say. You have to focus on your race. If you start in a mass start, what tends to happen is people normally get caught up in somebody else's race, and it completely takes you out of your race rhythm. So you have to be really focusing going with a plan in a race like that.
So I can imagine, like, if you start off and it just because it's a straight line, I'm assuming, of 20 in a row, and then it's kind of like a funnel to get to that staircase. If you get stuck behind someone, I mean, that could really change the tone of the entire race.
Yeah. They changed it a little bit, so it's a lot safer now with 20 people. But in the past, it used to be a whole field of people. I'm talking 50 or 100 people just pushing towards that door.
What? That's insane.
You can actually do, yeah, if you YouTube it, it's a lot of video.
Oh my
God!
God!
Was actually trumping.
And what I always like to do, Troy, as well, is after we're done with the show, on the side, shoot me some links. If you wanted to get into stair climbing, if there's like a central website or something like that, and then show me some, if you have some clips maybe on YouTube or maybe just your social media channels, and I put them in the show notes. So if someone listens to this and then someone listens to this and then wants to get into it, I can be the definitive resource for them to move forward and give them all the information that they need to go forward. So yeah, just shoot all that over to me, anything that you're referencing here, and I'll make sure to put it in there, and I put a little explanation of what the link is as well. So those listening, if you want to get into stair climbing, check out the notes after the show. They'll be right there. So okay, I want to go back. You said 13 minutes to run up the Empire State Building. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, 13:03 is my personal best. That's still not very, really fast, to be honest with you. But I'll take it, considering I normally excel in sprint races. I definitely take 13 minutes.
That's insane. So if you go, so you guys said that was an invite only. So how do you get invited? Are there qualifiers, or is it based off like national ranking, or how does that work?
national ranking plays a huge part in it. So there are two governing bodies that someone who's looking to join the sport should be familiar with. You have the TWA, that's the Tire Running World Association. That's the international governing body for all of tire running. So if you go to that website, it's going to show you every race that's in the world. And then you have USA Stair Climbing. I believe they changed it to USA Stair Climbing. That's the USA governing body. And that's for races specifically here in the United States. And points are distributed to each region. So I'm in the Southeast region, consider I'm in Florida. And, Northeast get their point system and et cetera, et cetera. Every region gets their own point.
Gotcha. So they don't expect you to have to, say you're in the Southeast and, you got the Northwest region, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, those people. They're not expecting you to, kind of cross the country to compete with each other, so it's a more fair way to, compete and kind of level the playing field a little bit. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. Of course, that option is open if you have the resources and you want to travel. That's completely fine. But
Right.
if you're kind of locked into that region, then you have the opportunity to level up and get points.
That's cool. I mean, I honestly, I started when we lost connection here, and I know, I mean, the audio still isn't, the best, but I think it's a bandwidth problem. That's what keeps popping up on the Zoom thing. But I can hear you. It's a little difficult to hear sometimes, but you're good. We'll get, I think people are gonna be able to understand what you're saying for sure. If I can, other people can.
Okay.
But when we lost connection though, when I first started following you, the reason I followed you is because once I started to get into endurance sports, it might have been maybe some of the hashtags that you use, or maybe you liked a picture of mine or something. But like I was like, oh, what is this? And I started following you real early on, but I had no idea that it was this deep. And then as time progressed, and then I got the show, I'm like, man, I got to get Troy on because it's super interesting what he does. And I started telling people about it, and I really think, because you know what I was thinking about, I go, if you think about it, every one of us, you go to elementary school, you go to middle school, and you'd race your friends up the stairs to school, right? Wasn't you always like, you skip 2 stairs, you sprint to the top? So everyone can relate to it, right? I mean, that's the way at least I see it. But to think about you doing it, at the level that you're doing it at is so impressive. So how often, is there a season for this, or is it just year round? Or, I mean, obviously it's indoors mostly, I'd assume, right? There's no outdoor staircases.
Yeah, stair climbing is year round. So as far as an off season, you have to make your own off season. The way it normally works here in the U.S. is majority of the races are going to be in the beginning part of the year. So from January and I would say April, you have a bulk of races between the American Lung Association, which is the primary organization that hosts a lot of stair climbs.
Okay.
And you'll have terminal towers, CT, cystic fibrosis, and multiple sclerosis. They have a few events as well, I think in the New York area, if I'm not mistaken. But majority of those climbs are going to be towards the beginning of the year. Now, what makes this work year-round is if you're into traveling, like internationally, then a lot of races happen during the summer months. So I normally go over to Europe and compete during the summer, which makes the sport year-round for me. And
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of the question too. Is one of the challenges that I find with triathlon is just the pure hours you got to put in. Saturday morning today, I was up at 5:30. I got 2.5 hours in on the bike. For you, and that's outside of work hours too. Now, is this your job, or do you have something outside of this that you do, or do you have like a full-time job and you're doing this on the side? How's that work for you?
I wish it was full time.
Yeah, right.
So at the moment, it's part time for me. I do work a full time job, freelance. I just started. I rebranded my brand, so I have that, and then I compete in competitive stair climbing as well. So I try to juggle everything around. I train 6 days a week. I don't train on Sundays. I try to take Sundays off to relax. But 6 days a week, sometimes 1 to 2 times a day for training. Saturdays, I try to train twice.
So this is going to sound like maybe an ignorant question. So if it comes off as that, I don't mean it to be. But to me, it's like running. So there's, the people who,
okay,
hate the treadmill, and then there's some people that use it as a tool.
Mhm.
So I guess the equivalent of that in your world would be
Okay.
the Stairmaster. So do you find any value in doing Stairmaster stuff at the gym? I mean, the Stairmaster probably doesn't go as fast as you need it to, anyways, right?
If you're going to use the Stairmaster, I would use it for your basic conditioning. Um, Competitive stair climbing is a lot different than that.
Because you're sprinting. I
If
mean,
you plan
you're
on, yeah.
yeah.
Now, if you're just walking a race, okay, that's totally fine. But if you're going to actually compete, I wouldn't recommend using that.
And that's why I like really interviewing people like you, because I understand that, same thing with like marathons or, any type of recreational stuff where if you're just looking to finish, fine. I mean, that's great. Everyone is, listen, the finish line is the same distance away as it is for everybody who's standing at the starting line, but it's how much you're going to put in it.
Right.
And that's why I like talking to people who not only pour their heart and soul into it because but it's an amateur thing. You're not, like you said, you wish it was full time. I wish I could, do triathlon full time, but the reality of the situation is you can't.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still putting every ounce of your energy into being the best that you can. And these are the kind of people that I love talking to and trying to get an understanding of like what your training is like and how you balance that. So when you say you're training, 1 to 2 times a day, 6 days a week, what's a training session typically look like for you? Are you spending, because it's a 13, let's just go an extreme case, the Empire State Building, which is I'm sure is probably one of the bigger ones that you've done, that's a 13-minute race. So do your times when you're trying or when you're training, do your times do you kind of not overtrain, but you know what I mean? Like, do you go like half hour when you're training, or what's a typical training session look like for you?
Well, prepare for something like that, considering the level of competition. That's definitely a 2 a day training routine, and minimum an hour and 30 minutes. That's minimum. So
Per
training
session?
for me per session, correct.
So 3 hours a
Training for
day
me,
of training when you're training for a
correct.
crazy. Wow, that's incredible. Okay.
And when I say training, so something to keep in mind, at least from my perspective, my training is not only physical, but it's also mental. You have to prepare yourself for exactly what you're going to do. I remember when I was preparing for the Empire State Building, I would actually visualize myself in the stairwell over and over and over just to kind of get myself ready for that. Because one thing about competitive stair climbing, if you're doing it competitively, like you're going to hurt. Like you can't get around that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be in pain and agony. And you have to tell yourself, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep pushing through this. And I think the beautiful part about that is sports or competitive stair climbing. I can actually pull it out of the sport and apply that to my life. And it's like nothing that I can achieve. If I can suffer in the stairwell for 13 minutes, then why can't I suffer through adversity or something that's going on in my life? And that's kind of how I look at it.
That's
Sports
incredible.
teach life lessons.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, so you mentioned a quote that you're a big fan of earlier. I have a quote that I think applies to exactly what you're talking about. I love the idea that, in sports, and it exactly what you said translates to normal life, being comfortable with being
Right.
uncomfortable. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's where real growth happens, right outside your comfort zone. And then the larger that you can
Right.
grow and extend into that uncomfortable realm, well, the bigger your comfort zone is going to be. And I just love that idea of you just always push. There's another quote. It's like, no, you'll never know how far you can go until you push yourself until you can go how far you can go. It's something like that. I butchered it because I'm a moron, but it's something like that. But but that's true though. That really is true. I really love that concept of, that mental, because when you say you envisioned yourself in the stairwell, you've lived that moment hundreds of times before it's even actually happened.
Right.
You've crossed that finish line and
Correct.
visualized yourself, so many times that all you got to do is just relive it again once the race comes, because you've already kind of done it in your mind so many times. Um, so that's incredible. I mean, so what are some other big events that you've done outside of the? I know you said you traveled to Europe. Where in Europe have you gone to?
So I think the latest one I talked about, my latest travels last September. I was in Europe for a tour, is what I called it. I put
That's
it
so
together.
cool.
I was supposed to compete 3 times, but I only got to compete twice because they were doing construction on one of the structures that were going to race up.
Mm.
But I competed in Bratislava, Slovakia, up the UFO bridge. That race was really interesting. It's only 23 floors, but we had to do it 3 times consecutively.
Whoa.
So it was extremely exhausting. And then I competed in Canton, Austria. That was the last race that I did. And let me tell you, international competition in general is extremely fierce. Like things you can get away with here, like a normal race or just competing normally, you can't do it. Like if you pause for 1 second, that's the podium. I kid you
Wow.
not, 3rd place through 6th place was 1 second time difference throughout the entire race.
Wow. That's crazy. So is it big over there? Are they really into the whole stair climbing thing over there?
Yeah, it's a lot more prevalent than it is here. They actually pay out 1st through 2nd. In Dubai, it's a payout from 1st through 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And there are some individuals that are sponsored in that part of the world.
And that actually brings my so are you sponsored?
Once upon a time, when I went to Europe the first time, I did
Mhm.
have a sponsor. When I went to Bogota, Colombia, I had a sponsor. Today, everything is all done by me. I just recently rebranded myself Stair Elite. So I'm
The
looking
shirt
to
looks
get my own
great. I
brand.
love it. I got to get one of those. I'll rep it. I'll buy it from you, man. I like that a lot. Um, yeah, I
Thank you.
mean, you do a great. It's a cool. It's a cool. I think it's a clean look. I think it's a clean name. It kind of gets your point across. But those 3 words, the way you phrase it, I think it just. There's no question. You're elite, man, and you climb stairs. What's the problem? Let's do
Yeah.
it. um,
So yeah,
so
I did want to speak on that.
no, what'd you say? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I did want to address that because the way I came up with the name is so rudimentary. So when you think about it, I compete in stair climbs, right? I go to a stair climb, and elite is subjective. So there's individuals that are extremely competitive, such as myself, but there are other individuals that's categorized as elite because they've been to multiple climbs. So they're elite. So stair climb elite. So it's open to anybody, no matter what fitness level you're at.
I
So
love
that's
that.
why I chose.
No, that's really cool, and the reason I like that too is because, again, it kind of fits into this whole kind of thing that I'm trying to build here. Is my goal is to not intimidate people. My goal is to inspire people, and the communities,
Right.
so whether it be cycling, whether it be triathlon, or the inline skater I interviewed, or Can Jam, every one of them I've talked to is like, come compete, come learn the sport. Selfishly for everybody. I mean, anything that you do, you want it to get bigger because you want it to continue to have success in whatever you're doing.
Right.
And that's my goal. That's why I said after this, shoot me those links. So if someone is interested and see if there's a race coming up near them. I mean, when I lived in Buffalo, and we unfortunately were never able to connect when you were up there, but I didn't know that race existed. And then you're traveling up from at the time you were in Jacksonville, right? And you're
Right.
traveling to Buffalo, New York, to run up our biggest building, which is not big at all, but and obviously you won it, right? I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. He says yeah with like a smug grin. His piece of cake.
A little bit.
But I didn't even know that existed. So if someone's thinking about getting into it, chances are. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I'm speaking out of my ass right now, but tell me, like, what are the chances a race is happening by you? I mean, they're pretty prevalent, right?
Yeah, there's races all over the United States. Like I said, if you go to the Tire Running World Association website, it has every race in the world. Or you can go to USA Stair Climbing, and I'll send you the link to confirm that's the name. I know they were
So chances are, no
trying to
matter
be.
where you are in the world, there's a race that's within driving distance that's going to be happening at some point in the year that you could train for.
Yeah, if it's in a major city, definitely.
Awesome,
Correct.
awesome. So when you went to Europe, I'm assuming that you probably had to qualify for that as well. Is that right or no?
Oh, you mean for like the European tour I did last September?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, that wasn't qualifier,
Oh,
but
okay.
I did get an invite, and So for some races, what they do is, depending on where you are in the ranking, they actually give you money, like I guess you could say like an appearance fee, but it's more so reimbursement. And all of this is spelled out on the actual tire rimming website, depending on the race. And they also let you know where you have to be ranked to actually get money and things in that effect.
That's amazing. So I actually had a personal question about it because uh, myself, I'm a very competitive person, and I'm always looking to try new stuff or just challenge myself, and I, like I said, like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So do most stair runners look like you? Obviously you're super lean. I've never met you in person, but you're tall. And that picture that you sent me, it looks like you got a pretty big wingspan, long legs. Do most runners look like you? Because I look like, I always say I look like Mario. I'm this short little Italian guy, so my little legs, I don't know if they, if I'd be a disadvantage, but is there a typical, like, when you think of stair runner, like a typical body type that is conducive to that sport, or
It actually varies. And just for a little news flash, I'm actually short, quote unquote. I'm only 5'7" myself.
are you really?
So yeah, I'm not very tall.
Oh my God, I'm 5'6 3/4". So that's
There you
crazy.
go.
That picture, honest to God, it
Yeah,
looks like you're like 6'4" or something like that. That's crazy. I would have never guessed that.
no,
Wow. Okay, there
heart
you
of a
go.
champion. I'll tell
Well,
you.
you just gave me inspiration. See, there you go.
But the body type of stair climbers, it definitely depends. You have people from all walks of life. There's some former professional runners that compete. There are some guys that are 6 feet. There's some guys that are 5'5". It really depends. I can tell you this: a lot of the more serious competitors are more, let's say, mature in age. It's like the older you get in the sport, the better you get. You get a better mental capacity to suffer. A lot of young people, such as myself or younger, we tend to go out too fast in races and burn out. So the older you get, the more experience you get, you know how to take your time and suffer a little bit better than the next person. Yeah.
That's really interesting because I think that in and of itself is just an intriguing prospect for someone who's thinking about getting into sports. I know that's what drew me to the whole world of endurance because a lot of endurance athletes are, you're looking at Ironman champions that are in their 40s, and you see a lot of these people. I mean, you go to I compete at the age group world championships, and it's in 5 year increments.
Okay.
And I mean, you have people that, I mean, I just saw a guy from Japan. I think he was like 81. He's like the oldest person to ever finish an Ironman. I mean, 81 years old. Come on. So it's one. So that's intriguing though because it's one of those. So add it to the list of sports that you can do. Well into later in life, stair climbing, right?
Right.
I mean, you see. What do you think the oldest person you ever have seen compete in the sport would be?
I was just about to go there. There's a gentleman named Stair Climb George. I think he's in his 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But he travels all over the U.S. and does stair climbs. And he walks at his own pace, and he just completes. He completes stair climb, get on the plane, and go to the next stair climb.
That's
He's
so
a real
cool.
nice guy.
Doesn't George is just an old name, isn't it? Like you never expect to hear like a young George, right? That's really neat. That gives you that really makes you want to compete too. When you see someone like that grinding, it's like why the hell would I quit? Or like what excuse do I have? When you see people like that, that's super
Exactly.
inspirational. Yeah. So what's obviously with everything going on right now, what's your season been like since, March when everything kind of shut down and the world stopped for a bit? What's your training been like? Have you been, obviously, I'm sure you've continued to train. Do you have anything on the horizon or any events coming up that you're looking forward to?
No, right now it's just low intensity training. So I'm just trying to use this time to work on the little incremental things, like strengthening leg muscles, working on foot placement on the stair, on the platform, just working on those little things. So whenever a competition does come back up, I can add back in my high intensity training and I'm ready to go full scale.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's talk about that because I find that pretty interesting. We talk about foot placement. So are you pretty much in the balls of your feet the whole time?
No, so I'm flat footed. Every once in a while, I will just place my toe on a step. But what I mean by foot placement is there's a transition point and a stairwell. So you normally have a flight of stairs, platform, and then another flight of stairs. And that platform can be very detrimental to your placing, especially like in an international race. So you want to be extremely efficient. You also want to make sure that you save energy and time on there. So it depends. At the beginning of a race, a lot of times you just want to place 1 foot on that platform, but as you start to tire, you don't want to place any more than 2 feet on the platform. So things like that, just staying focused and conscious of where your feet are landing.
Are you allowed to grab the guardrails? Is there any rules against that?
No, I actually use both handrails in a race.
Interesting.
I will tell you one of the most challenging things though is in a lot of races that I've done in Europe, the stairwell is so wide I can't reach both of the handrails, so you have to rely on one.
Huh.
So that's where building up your leg muscles is extremely important.
Do you do any type of weightlifting as well, in addition to the cardiovascular training that you do for run upstairs?
Yeah, so a lot of my training, as far as like the structure of it, the exercises, especially in the weight room, I pull directly from track and field. So whatever I did in college, I still do those things, which is a lot of Olympic lifts. So I like to do clean and jerk. I like to clean, deadlift. I like those movements. Clean and jerk is a love-hate relationship, but it's a full body workout. Everything is working.
It's that functional training.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a hard one to pull off. A lot of people, I find a lot of people, if you haven't grown up doing that kind of lifting, it's hard to learn later. Not impossible, but the benefits that you get from doing that kind of stuff is just, as opposed to like, I'll never get people who go to the gym and just like do bicep curls. It's like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like you looking to get like peak biceps. You know what I mean? Like let's train. You want to later in life, you want to be able to like squat down, pick up groceries, twist to put them in the car, like just functional. You want to have a strong relationship throughout your entire body with all your different muscle systems and stuff like that. That functional training. I mean, I can imagine running up a staircase has to be one of the hardest workouts you could possibly do. And 13 minutes of that, like I keep going back to the Empire State Building because I think that's something that, when you say like, the Chase Bank Building or whatever, I mean, not everyone has that, but everyone knows the Empire State Building, and just the idea of thinking about running up that, maybe some of the people who work in that building during rush hour know what it's like to have 20 people looking for the staircase at the same time. But other than those people, maybe not that experience, but that's so. What I know you said the season is a year-round season, but you kind of have to pick and choose, when you're on and when you're not. Is that change on a year-to-year basis for you, depending on what's going on in your personal life, or do you typically try to stay to the same season?
No, so I try to change my races as I progress. Moving forward, I'm not really sure which direction I want to go as far as races just yet, especially with the whole COVID thing. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, in the past, like I would stick to Florida races, and the reason is I was looking to
how many? I'm sorry.
No, I say in the past I would stick to all Florida races.
Oh, Florida races, gotcha.
Yes, I was looking to win all the races in Florida and set all the course records, which is a goal I accomplished about 2 years ago.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, 2 years ago I would just stay in Florida and compete.
And how many races is that?
7, if I'm not mistaken.
Very
cool. From
the
American Run Association, yeah.
Wow. And then, so you did that. So now it's kind of like, what it sounds like is you kind of wanted to establish yourself as like, kind of, it's, your immediate vicinity, kind of conquer that and then kind of spread it out a little bit, and then spread it out and go forward. And now you're starting to branch out. So is there like, I keep going back to triathlon because that's my sport, but there's the Ironman Championship, that's kind of like it, there's a million Ironman races all over the country, and you have to either win or come in the top 2 or 3 in your age group, depending on what race it is, to get an invite, to the Ironman World Championship. Is there like a standard race that is a national championship for the United States? Like I know the Empire State Building one was like an invite one or a qualifying one. But is there like a definitive where the best of the best all meet at one spot one day of the year and get at it?
Yes. USA Championships is in Las Vegas, and it's the race to the stratosphere.
Oh, that's cool. When is that?
Yeah. It's normally February, and it's a Sunday, unfortunately. And I don't compete or train on Sundays anymore. So I've only done that race one time.
And how did it go?
Top 10 finish, maybe even top 5. I have to double check the results. It's been a while. I think it's top 5.
You did well though. You did real well. That's awesome. So that is, man, this whole world is just so intriguing to me. I mean, a couple of weeks ago when I interviewed the guy who was the inline speed skater, he told me about how there are because he got into it at 40 years old, so he didn't even get into it until later in life. And his picture, if you go back and look at it, his quads look like they're just about to explode. They're nuts. But he not only talked about like the inline speed skating where they're going in circles, like ice skating kind, or it's the exact same concept as the speed skating in the Olympics, but it's just on roller skates. He also opened the world up to me of they have half and full marathon skating competitions. And, right after the podcast, I'm online. I'm looking at these different races all over the U.S. And a couple of my friends who listen to the show, too, they were like, all right, we're into. And the next day I went out and I did a marathon on my skates just to he inspired me, So this talk, man, I got to go find a tall building. I want to do it. I want to run up and, see, because I know it's hard as hell. I know it. And that feeling that you had in your first race on that 18th floor. I mean, I feel like I'd have that on the 3rd floor. So it's inspiring stuff to hear how well you've done. So, how old are you, by the way?
I just turned 33 in March.
Nice. Okay, so we're basically the same age. I'm a year older than I just turned 34 a couple weeks ago. So kind of.
Happy belated. Thank
you. Thanks for not wishing it on my real birthday, you jerk. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so you've been how long? And you may have told me, and I'm sorry, I forgot. I am old now, so I have a terrible memory. How long have you been doing the stair climbing? How long have you been racing?
10 years.
10 years. Oh wow! So you've been doing this for a long time. Okay. Yeah. So you got into this. So 23 years old, let's say, ish, when you got into it, and
somewhere around there.
And then you probably graduated. What you said you were doing your master's when you kind of stumbled into this, but 21 when you graduated. So you had a couple years where you weren't really competing between college and finding this.
No, it was immediate transition.
Transition.
I ran track and field. I ran track and field in undergrad and grad school. I redshirted my freshman year. Oh,
you ran it in grad school too. Gotcha. That's where I missed that. Got it. So you were like, I got to keep competing. Like I can't just quit cold turkey. I've been competing at a really high level, and I just can't sit around, just looking at the wall. I gotta keep going, right?
Right. Yes.
Nice. So you said you were looking for 5Ks, right? That's what really, when you first started, you were looking for, maybe 5K, 10K, or some kind of race to stay competitive. So did you ever get into that? Did you ever do any 5Ks or anything? When you were getting into the stair, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure after your first, leading up to your first race, you maybe were, thinking, I don't think you knew, or maybe you did, I don't know, that you were going to be, one of the best people in the country at this sport. Were you still thinking about doing 5Ks, in the back of your mind? And did you ever really get into those as well?
So 5Ks or distance running in general, it's just a way for me to build my base. It's for me to build on top of, just a quick analogy for you. It's like building a house on concrete. That's what distance running is for me, versus not doing any distance running and building a house on sand. It's going to sink. Even if you do all of the high intensity work with no base, eventually you don't have anything to absorb it.
Right.
And what I mean by absorb, if I build on a base from distance running and I do high intensity workouts, my recovery is a lot faster. This is how my body works, and this is what I noticed. recovery time is a lot faster. So I build a base on 5Ks and 8Ks and long distance running. So I always incorporate 5Ks in my training or just for fun.
Got it. That makes sense. That definitely makes, and it's kind of like the same idea in my sport. It's time on your feet. It's you're building that base. That you don't want to cross that lactic threshold where you still want to be able to talk. You're doing that talk test for your longer distance runs. You're not going to exhaustion because, like you said, you're building that base. So that totally makes sense. No, do you find it hard? Do you ever? I know you said you like train 5K distance. Do you ever run any 5K races around in the area, like the Turkey Trot or anything like that?
Yeah, every once in a while I try to find something to do. One of the races that kind of come to mind now, considering the time of year, in Jacksonville, there's a race called Tour de Pain. It's 3 races in 24 hours. And it consists of a 4-mile beach run on Friday, a 5K Saturday morning, and a 1-mile road race Saturday afternoon. So I like to participate in things like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I've never heard anything like that before. That beach run is a brutal way to start out that three race gauntlet there. Holy cow! Wow, that's and you've done that before. You said
Oh, several times.
that's cool. That's really cool. And now you're in Tampa. You said so. You moved from Jacksonville to Tampa.
Correct. Yes.
What brought you to Tampa?
Job opportunity. So I am a full-time graphic designer, and I got a wonderful opportunity here, working with Ashley as the international graphic designer. So I definitely jumped on an opportunity.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome. That's really cool.
Thank
Graphic
you.
design. That's so through all this, pandemic and everything like that, have you been affected by your job? Have you been able to, maintain it?
I've been very fortunate. I have been able to maintain it,
That's
and
great.
I've also picked up a few freelance opportunities as well. So
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. And we may actually have to talk because I need some help with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we'll definitely be talking
okay.
for sure. I appreciate you offering your services even though you didn't. So, so let's go back to, you train, twice a day, and what's like an off season look
Mhm.
like for you? Because obviously you're not quitting cold turkey. It's not like you're just, sitting on the couch for a month or two, um, or maybe you are. I don't know. What's like an off season look
You
like
said
for you?
off? Oh, I normally do take time off. So if it's completely off, I have some bad habits that I need to work out. I love to go to the movies on Tuesday, eat popcorn, just completely relax. Um, I try to incorporate a lot of massages to work out lactic acid, let my body recover,
hmm
and cryotherapy is actually beneficial as well.
Yeah, I got to get into that. That's I work out at the Dallas Cowboys practice facility because I live in Frisco and it's literally right down the road, and they have a whole,
Uh-huh.
they got everything. And like you say, you got bad habits. I got some shitty habits, man. I have no recovery. Like I'm as stiff as a board, man. I don't stretch. I don't recover ever, and that's my bugaboo in training. Is I know I'm overtraining and it's just a mental thing for me. It's like I feel like I'm a shark or a fish. It's like what if I stop moving, I'm gonna drown. That's the way like my mentality is. So that's what I got to get better at. So for you,
Yeah.
you said you like going to the movies on Tuesdays. What are your favorite movies? You sound like a movie connoisseur. Let's hear it.
I'm an action guy. Action and mystery. So things like Battleship, that was a pretty good movie. I really hope they come out with a second one because it makes sense to come out with a second Battleship if you look at the way it ended. But I like sci-fi movies and action movies, mysteries, things that make you think,
Yeah.
this actually could happen. So
Any good ones coming out that you're looking forward to?
Top Gun 2.
Top Gun 2. Did
I'm a
that not
huge
come
Top
out?
Gun.
I thought that came out already.
Yeah.
No, that didn't come out already. I don't know.
I don't think so. And if it did, maybe it's on DVD.
Nah, I probably am wrong. Because you know what? I'm that person that whenever you know how every group of people always has that one guy. Someone will say a movie quote or someone will reference, some real famous movie, and then I'm that dope who's always like, I've never seen that. I don't get that. Like what? People get all upset. So I am, and what's a shame too is me and my fiance. We literally live next door to a movie theater. It is basically a part of our apartment complex. So it'd be your heaven. It'd be your heaven living here. But yeah, so I never really see any movies. But my guilty pleasure is video games. Do you play any video games at all?
I'm actually embarrassed to say the last video game system I played was a PlayStation 2. So no, not really.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed because you're an adult. I am a year older than you, and I'm still playing video games. So, hey, we all got our vices, right? We all got to wind down and relax somehow. So that's my vice, you know. So,
Yes.
let's see what else we got here. So, Troy, we know about you as, a person from, basically from college on. Let's hear about growing up. Have you ever played any other sports? Basketball, football, baseball, any of the traditional kind of team sports? You ever swim or anything like that growing up?
Yeah, so my athletic career actually started at age 7, 8. I played Pop Warner football, and from there I moved over to soccer in middle school, and then from middle school to high school. This is a funny story. I did cross country, soccer, and track, not by choice, by force, because the track coach was also the soccer coach, was also the cross country coach. So we had to
Ah.
do all of them. But all of the sports grew on me though. They're actually fun. So I like soccer and cross country, of course. That's how I build my base. So it was fun.
That's cool. And I know, I mean, Florida sports are no joke. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing down there. I know it's so competitive, with everything down there. And I mean, Florida track is notoriously famous, right? I mean, it's some of the best
Mm.
track athletes in the world are coming from Florida. So I can only imagine how intense, that experience was for you.
Yeah. So just to touch bases on that, in high school actually taught me a very, very, very valuable life lesson, and that's the value of hard work. And the reason I say that is I started out being a distance runner. I was a 1 miler, 2 miler, 800 steeplechase, all of that. And it's not really what I wanted to do, but when I first started track and field, I had no clear direction. It wasn't until the end of my freshman year that I discovered I wanted to do the hurdles. Surprisingly, I wasn't good at the hurdles. I was running 53 seconds for the 300 hurdles, slow. Well, the entire summer, I worked my entire freshman summer. I came back my sophomore year and qualified for the regional championship, and I dropped from 53 seconds to 41:24 just by working the entire
Wow.
summer.
So we got one of our I on Twitch. I it's like a community, right? And I don't mean to interrupt your story, it's relevant. On Twitch, we have this, I ride my
Yep.
bike a lot on Twitch. It's called Zwift, and we've developed this like pretty tight community. And this cycling team called Team ODZ, they just commented. They said respect for hard work and perseverance. So they just had to give that.
Exactly.
They're giving you a shout out. I know you can't see it, but I didn't want to let you know that they're giving you a shout out there. So kudos to you.
Appreciate the shout out, guys.
All right, so keep going. Sorry about that. So you shaved off. You went from 53 to what?
41:24.
Holy cow! That is another galaxy. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And by my senior year, I was down to 38 seconds, which got me
Wow.
a scholarship. Yeah.
Isn't that
So
funny how life
hard
takes
work.
those twists and turns? It's you go
Mhm.
from your coach having that influence in your life to influencing you to pick up that sport to all of a sudden, boom, you're getting paid to go to college and that's pretty cool.
Right.
Wow, that's neat. What so you said so, and I know when I first met you, virtually through Instagram and stuff, you were Jacksonville. Is that where you grew
Mhm.
up? Is that where you went to high school in that area?
Yeah. So originally from Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised. Lived there all my life. Left to go to college at Warren University, which is in Lake Wales. Then I went back home after college, worked a few jobs there, eventually got into graphic design, and then found the opportunity here in Tampa and moved over to Tampa about 2.5 years ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, we do you know have you ever heard of Bishop Kenny High School in Jacksonville?
Used to race them all the time across country.
There you go. So we
Yeah.
went to when I was in high school, being from Buffalo, I mean it snows, it snows until May sometimes. Like this year it snowed until May. So baseball starts in March and you can only get so much work, throwing balls at each other in the gym. It's just obviously not the same thing as going out and catching fly balls and stuff. So what we did is we had a lot of agreements with football. Yeah, we played football against the baseball. We had a lot of agreements with the baseball teams down there in Florida, and we'd leave in. So we'd go down around Easter every year, and we kind of did like a tour of, and listen, these baseball teams in Florida would, stomp us, but we were just looking to get the experience, and it was just fun to be outside in nice weather and see the sun, because we never saw the sun in Buffalo in the winter. But Bishop Kenny was a team that we played every year, so right across the street from the Jag Stadium, if I remember correctly, right on that river, whatever that is, and it was just a cool experience.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember me and my friends playing them, and just because I remember the year we played them. They had a lot of players that were going on scholarship to D1 schools throughout Florida for baseball. And I'll never forget this. I thought this was pretty cool. This is like one of my little achievements in sports. I don't have many. So this one, and it's not even, whatever. I was like, I always just describe it as I was like Ichiro. I would, as long as I made contact with the ball, I was going to get on first base because I'm really fast. I sucked at hitting. And, I just had to make contact, and it was just constant, infield hits. It was little dribblers, but I was fast to get on. So then, obviously Ichiro is an incredible hitter, but you know what I'm saying. But so I'm on first base, and I'm and my coach is, the third base coach. I'm looking at him for the signs, and he's telling me, he's like, don't steal, don't steal. And I'm like, screw this. We're down by 100, and we're playing some ridiculous team from Florida. None of this matters. I'm going for it. So I just took off, and I actually stole second, and I was pretty happy. And then the second baseman, I'll never forget this. The second baseman comes up to me. He goes, you can tell your friends that you just stole second off a guy who's got a full ride to Florida for baseball. The catcher was going to Florida the next year. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. So, and then I went, and then the guy at home plate, or the guy up to bat, struck out, and the inning was over. But I ran by the coach, and I'm just like, yeah, that's right, that's right. That's one of my stories from Bishop Kenny. That's I remember that like it was yesterday. And remember Hungry Howie's. You ever have that pizza place down there?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, that was my favorite. Oh, we loved it. As soon as I got off the plane and got to our hotel, it was a beeline to Hungry Howard's for the 3-cheese pizza. That was our favorite. So
they still have those in Jacksonville.
Do they really? Yeah, that's they don't
do.
have them in Texas. They definitely don't have them in Texas. The pizza here sucks. That's the one thing I will bash Texas on that. The pizza here stinks. Clean it up, all right? I'm looking at you, Texas, Dallas. But I guess speaking of that, what kind of diet do you follow? Do you have a specific nutrition plan that you follow in terms of, maybe off or on season, or just like keto or anything like that?
So one thing I stick to religiously is only fish, turkey, and chicken for meat, and
Okay.
of course my vegetables. I don't do beef or pork. Something that I removed out of my diet completely. A couple of years ago, I think I was still in high school when I removed it out, and I haven't eaten it since. But my body feels amazing by doing that. And of course, I consume my vegetables and fruits and things like that. But those are the only 3 meats I eat.
I did that with pork too. The whole trichinosis thing freaked me out, and I still occasionally I'll eat some bacon, but the factory farming stuff is just so appalling to see how that stuff is made. So is that any reasoning behind it, or is it just ethical reasons, or is it just because you were feeling shitty and you wanted to kind of experiment and see kind of make some tweaks to your diet?
I don't like the heavy feeling from it. I've heard that beef actually sits in your stomach for days. So I don't like that. And I just feel a lot better eating the more lean, high protein, other than steak, of course, but the more lean meats like the chicken, the fish, and turkey, I just rather stick to that.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very good. I use my FitnessPal pretty religiously, and because I fun fact about me is like I said, playing baseball growing up, since it snows, well into the baseball season. The one day it was snowing, so we had to go inside. We got freshman JV varsity in the gym playing at the same time. Long story short, I got clocked in the face with a batting cage ball from across the gym. Destroyed my face, so I have
Ouch.
yeah, it wasn't fun. And I have very, very limited smell and taste because of that. And one of the side effects
Mm.
from severing your olfactory epithelium is I like there's this disconnect for me, so I'm like always hungry because one of the reasons you smell and taste is so if you have a craving, your body's telling you you're getting that, but and there's like a 20-minute window between ingestion and digestion. So that's kind of like this. So I can eat forever, and I was getting into trouble for a while because I could literally eat to the point that I get sick. So I'm coming at it from the other end. I eat so much that I have to like that's why I like working out so much, like riding my bike for a couple hours. Because I'm like, all right, I got some calories to play with today. My guilty pleasure is I have the Quest protein cookies. I don't know if you've ever seen those. And then what I'll do is I'll take that with that
I have.
Halo with the Halo top ice cream, and I make a little like cookie sandwich. So
Mhm.
there's like no sugar, and I think it's like 8 grams of sugar between the entire sandwich. Um, that's what I took a huge focus on, like you say with your beef and your pork. You cutting that out. For me, it was sugar. When
Right.
I completely cut out, any kinds of. I mean, I've never really been into pop, but I know, if you have a can of pop, it's like 80 grams of sugar, 70 something grams of sugar, I think. I mean, that's what I'll have. I won't even have that an entire day. And you see people slamming 2 liters. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? That's poison.
Yes, that carbonated water is not good.
No, no. So I drink. Yeah, so as soon as I cut the sugars, that was a game changer for me. That made me feel like $1 million too. Well, listen, Troy, we've been talking for over an hour. Can you believe it? We're almost. I mean, that flew by,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
it was
a,
definitely fast, but it was a lot of fun.
and it's a Saturday. You're in Florida. I mean, it's a free for all down there, man. Go enjoy it, right? Go get to the beach.
Yeah, I don't know. The heat is very disrespectful here today. I mean, it is hot.
I've never heard someone use the term disrespectful to describe the heat. I'm going to steal that. I love that. That's amazing. What do you do? What do you do for fun? I mean, let's finish on that. Let's finish on a high note. What's a guy like you, young, 33? You're in Tampa, Florida. It's beautiful weather. Well, it's a little disrespectful. What are you going to do after this? What are you going to do for fun?
Well, for fun, or what am I doing after this?
Let's do both. Let's do both. After this, and then usually what do you do
Okay.
for fun?
So I've been dedicated the last couple of weeks on brand building. So I'm doing a lot of shirt designs, just trying to get the brand up and running. So that's been my primary focus right now. But for fun, when I'm not working out, of course, I do enjoy reading. I love to read new books, especially when it comes to graphic design, or something motivational. I'm always looking to inspire somebody to be a better version of themselves. I enjoy mini golf, not regular golf, but mini golf.
Mini
It's really
golf.
fun.
I could get into that. You know what? I'm going to bring that up to my fiance today. I think that's a great idea, and I want to do that
Yeah.
today. All right. If you're listening, Jenny, we're going mini golfing. All right. um. So okay. Well, that's odd, and I think that's a great topic to end on, though. Like you were talking about earlier, is that pushing yourself to be a better athlete and pushing through barriers that you may have thought you had that you surprise yourself that does bleed over. And I think it shows in your work. I mean, you got this brand that you're building on the side. You're working your ass off in a regular job. You're studying up to get better at that job. I mean, that I remember, was it? It was right around when I got into triathlon. I think it was like 4 years ago. I was working a 9 to 5 at a job where I was sitting in a cube, just it was a sales gig, and I'm looking around at these people who are just sleepwalking through life. They're just going to a job that they don't necessarily enjoy. They're sitting in this dim lit office. They're going, and all they do is talk about nonsense all day. Like, did you see what was on TV last night? Did you see what happened on Grey's Anatomy or whatever the hell show they're watching? And I'm just like, what are your interests? Or like, what are your hobbies? And they're like, well, I watch TV. Like, that's not a hobby. You know what I mean? That's literally just you might as well stare at the wall. You're not getting anything out of that. And um, as I've kind of gotten more into the endurance sports and really kind of that, for me, it was a little bit later in life at 28 when I really dedicated myself to becoming healthy. And because when I was playing football, I was, still obviously competing at a high level as pro football, but it wasn't like I wasn't putting in the hours and hours and hours of training like I am with endurance sports. So I think that does bleed over. And when you surround yourself with positive people like yourself, I just think listen, social media can go one of two ways, right? You can have it be an echo chamber where you're just, parroting what your thoughts are and you're just following people who, are going to agree with your points of view and you're just spewing political opinions all over the place. Or you can turn it into something where it's a real positive game changer for you. And I think following people like you and hearing your story, I mean, it's inspirational. I really do think it is. I mean, think about how much your life has changed in 10 years just because you stumbled across this sport one day when, you're 22, 23 years old.
Very true.
That's awesome. Well, listen, is there anything that we did not cover today or any last word that you want to get out there to anybody listening here?
So the only thing I did want to say and kind of end on too, based on, or just to kind of piggyback on what you said, is vision. And I think it's really important that we have a vision for our life. And when you vision, whatever you envision for your life, it's important to also envision those challenges too, because they're going to be oppositions that come up against you. And if you can envision those before they come up, then you can see past that and you can see your ultimate goal. And I just think that's extremely important. And I'm really speaking from personal experience right now, because as I'm developing my brand, I see a few hurdles, but I already plan for that. And I see what the end result is. So it's really helpful to be able to see your end result and not focus on the hurdles that pop up before you.
I think that is the perfect note to end on right there. That is some inspirational stuff right there. So next time, I promise I will understand the difference between different time zones. That is completely on me, so I apologize for starting a little late there. But thank you so much for your time, Troy. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, for those listening, I'll put those links up in the show notes. He's going to send them over to me right now. And, go enjoy building your brand. We'll be in touch. I'm going to rock a shirt. I'm going to buy a shirt from you, and I'm going to wear it on the show. I promise. That's a promise to you, all right?
Perfect.
All right,
okay,
man.
Sounds good, Brian.
Well, thanks for your time. And thanks for joining, everybody. I really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me on the show again as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
You shine when I feel that heartbeat, I fly so much higher, fly so much higher, fly so much higher, fly so much higher, sky lines and clouds are below us now, sky